the secretary of the commission can perform the functions of the commission that are limited to conducting by-elections under Article 114B of the Constitution. So in that amendment is an insertion of a new clause that comes immediately after clause 5, which indicates that where the commission is not constituted, the secretary to the commission shall perform the functions of the commission related to the conduct of a by-election under Article 101, subarticle 4. Well, if you are just joining us, the House business has been interrupted by a lack of quorum in the House or in the chamber, and thereby the Speaker has directed a quorum bell be rung for 10 minutes. This quorum bell is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 35. Quorum during the proceedings of the House, that if the House lacks a requisite quorum, then the bell will be rung. And as you have seen, the business that was on the floor of the House is on proposed amendments to the Constitution. So, of course, members are needed to ventilate on these particular proposals. Once the quorum has been achieved, you can see members taking their seats. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast. Hopefully the quorum has been achieved. We believe that the Sergeant at Arms and the clerk have informed the Speaker, if at all, the quorum has been achieved. All right, the Speaker, let's listen in to what he's saying.
Time being 6:34 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Wednesday, the 13th day of March 2024 at 9:30 a.m.
Speaker, if Amero can go and save Coast Province, that's what the deputy majority leader need to embrace. It's not saying that somebody from Coast is being marginalized. How long are they going to climb marginalization? For 60 years, they are climbing marginalization. We cannot cause depression to one region forever. No, we must learn to speak the truth. There is a lot of money which has been pumped in the Coast and Northeastern, and it is common sense. So we can't be claiming marginalization 60 years down the line. That is the long concept. Every Kenyan has a right. Every Kenyan has an opportunity to do what is supposed to be done. Mr. Speaker, there is no point of wonder when you speak the truth. And when the truth is known, we give
What's the point of order, Honorable Owen Baya? Let's listen to...
Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Ndikiri, in spite his gray hair, lacks facts in what he's saying. It is factual that the Coast region has been underserved for many years, for the 60 years that he's talking about. It is factual that the most poor regions in this country are in the Coast. Coast Development Authority was set up by the late Karisa Maitha in this parliament to mitigate against underserving the populace in the Coast. And therefore, Coast Development Authority was set just for that purpose, to mitigate underdevelopment. So the Honorable Ndikiri needs to look at facts. Facts are in the standing orders. It is factual that underdevelopment has been there for the last 60 years. So stick to facts.
Very well, leader.
Coast has been underserved. So do not paint a picture which does not exist. It is facts. This parliament believes
Order.
in facts
Order,
and corrective.
Honorable Baya.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. You know, as I said, you cannot deny the truth, and there is no facts in according to you. Let's not play politics on this. We are dealing with a very serious matter.
In fact,
Members.
before you proceed, Honorable Baya should have actually produced the facts.
Yes,
But
correct.
meanwhile, proceed.
Let him tell the fact because, you know, a kid cannot continue crying forever. No, we must be serious. We must live what we are preaching. Baya is part of the better program of this country. And he cannot play a game negativity. No, that is wrong. And he has been advised by senior counsel, my brother Amolo. If you you can't take the advice of anybody else, please take the advice of senior counsel Amolo. He has gray hair like me, and that's where you draw wisdom. Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of spending of money with these organizations. And Mr. Speaker, where we are appropriating money to the national, the regional organizations, then we must have a national outlook. Mr. Speaker, time has come. We either say these are regional organizations, authorities that are funded by the Exchequer, appropriated through National Assembly, or we transfer their functions to the counties. And therefore, we also increase the funding of the counties so that they can perform the same functions. Mr. Speaker, it is very important for this country to go back again. We must review because there are some counties which are not covered by this properly by these organizations. The Tana and Athi River, they cover very limited areas of Meru County, where I come from. And it's specifically Bode constituency. It is not under any of these authorities. Yet I share the same geographical conditions with Laikipia and Isiolo. Meaning, as we push through these authorities, we must ensure all the areas that have similar climatical and weather conditions, they are lumped together. And therefore, I'll ask the drafters and the proposers of this bill, we must now reorganize and see the areas of coverage. Because if you don't do that, we will only be discriminating against the traditional known counties. Mr. Speaker, I join the other members and say time has come for us not to start going backward, but move forward. I therefore support this bill.
The Honorable Jackson Kosgei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to support the Regional Development Authority bill. It has been said, Mr. Speaker, that purpose dictates priority. The regional development authorities were created and tasked with a unique mandate in the progression and development of our country in trying to fulfill the agenda of developing Kenya in a uniform way. About 40 years ago, the regimes that followed, there was some concern. Some regions have not been developed, and it looked like the development agenda of 1965 would not meet it and would not help them. So these regional bodies and authorities were created to mitigate on this, like one of our colleague mentioned a while ago. Mr. Speaker, they were mandated to initiate, to implement, an integrated multi-purpose programs and projects for a sustainable utilization of resources found in regional areas of our country. Mr. Speaker, it has served to a certain extent. And I think with the advent of the implementation of our constitution through the two-tier system of government, which has now improved the very intention that was developed at that time, there is need to reform these bodies in order to meet the same demands. We cannot, there is a saying from where I come from by elders that you cannot take a shelter under a tree while it is sunshine, and when you get the overall shade, you cut it down. The only thing we can do to these authorities is to reform them. Let us reform them. Now, we want to understand the concerns by the majority leader, deputy majority leader, when he mentioned about the people from Coast. We really appreciate the participation by Coastalians from 1963. It has produced some of the best politicians in this country who have served this nation with distinction. They have produced technocrats and bureaucrats who have served this country. At one point, we had the head of public service coming from the coast. And really marginalization of course, northern areas and other places is in nationalization of our projects. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I join my colleagues by saying our reformation must address harmonization of these particular authorities with the concept that is rising in the economic blocks of our counties, because counties are spread along the same regions. We need also to align it with our constitution. And we do so with that appreciation, because these authorities, it was supposed to foster an integrated, sustainable economic development, and by empowering the communities that hosted it. It has to do so as it were before, without looking like we are balkanizing the country. We must encourage nationalization of our focus in terms of developing our nation. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill and congratulate the chair, Lord Chakabongo, for leading his committee and bringing this particular bill. I support, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Japheth Nyakundi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me this opportunity to say a word on this important bill. RDAs are very important entities that were started to act as devolved functions back then. But with the enactment of the 2010 Constitution, most of these RDAs have been rendered redundant because most of their functions have either been taken by the national government or the county government. So as a house, we have to look for the best way on how to make sure that these RDAs work optimally. A good example is the Lake Basin Authority, whereby the Lake Basin Authority gets about 200, 300 million per financial year. You find that this money goes into paying recurrent expenditure and personal emolument. So the employees who work there, they do not have work to do. You find them the whole year, they're just seated in the offices doing nothing. We need to look for a way that these RDAs, either they be amalgamated or this honorable house decides and we put enough money and resources to these RDAs so that they can be able to work efficiently, because we cannot have employees in offices who are doing nothing. These employees are people who are qualified, who need to be on the ground doing work for Kenyans, not just in the offices, seated there doing a lot of nothing. So I propose and I support this bill that there has to be a way of making sure that the county government and the national government cooperate with the RDAs. A good example, if we find out that most of these RDAs have done maybe bowls or have done markets, but maintaining, once they have done these markets or bowls, they go and these bowls, once they need maintenance, there is nobody to maintain them. We have to look for a way, once these boreholes have been done, they either be taken back to the national government, to the county government, so that the county government can be able to maintain them as days goes by. So I want to support this bill, and I also want to support, Honorable Speaker, the standardization of the board members. Having 9 board members is very, very important, because you find other RDAs that have 12 members, others have 7 members. We have to look for a way of making sure that these board these RDAs have a certain number of board members, which we've decided is 9. We also need to make sure that these RDAs are put under one act, because you'll find Ewasonyiro South has its own act, Ewasonyiro North has its own act, Lake Basin Authority has its own act. We need to, and I want to thank in this house so that we can be able to amend the. I also want to support Honorable Owen Baya partially. I also want to support Honorable Baya partially, though we have competent people in this country who can be deployed everywhere in this country. But I also want to support that the people from those regions are also supposed to be part of those, part of the board members of those RDAs, because they understand the topography of those areas better than other people who have come in from other areas. So I want to support this bill fully, and thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity.
The Honorable Suzanne.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would also want to add my voice to this very important bill on the issue of the regional development authorities, which in the 1980s and...
Order, Honorable Suzanne. Members, I'm a strict follower of the law, and I'm following the list very well. Suzanne is the one to speak on this now, and I'll continuously do so. So just key in the card, and I will do exactly that. Proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I said the regional development authorities have played a very key role in transforming Kenya in the 1980s and the 90s. And that was before the pre-devolution period. But as we look, Honorable Speaker, on most of these authorities, with the changing context, where counties and national government have very clear outlined roles they have to play in facilitating development in this area, I find it very difficult to explain some of the roles of some of these development authorities. Because some of the development authorities, you even find that they are poorly resourced. The only budget they have is for salaries. Then most times I'm left wondering, are we paying people just to have them get salaries? Didn't these authorities have a clear mandate of what they should have? Like, for example, I'm having in mind very key authorities like the Tada and the Tana River, which have a very big mandate, especially when we observe, Honorable Speaker, that they operate in most marginal areas. But when you look at the budgets, most of them do not have budgets except recurring expenditure. Is there any need to give authorities that have outgrown their usefulness? I am of the view that some of these authorities need to be closed down if we can't fund them. Because I think when we have structures of governance and the management, it is basically not to give people salaries, but it should be aimed as meeting a purpose that will actually drive this country to a higher level. But when we have authorities that have just been reduced to bodies to give salaries and the people to have sitting allowances, I think as a country, we are actually missing a point on that. Nevertheless, I've heard the argument that these regional authorities sometimes they lack the expertise because people want them to have people from their own area. While we appreciate board members in these regional authorities from local area, I think we'll be very retrogressive if as Kenyans we start looking at ourselves in very localized silo, very localized village-like thinking. No wonder our politics are also going in that direction, because nowadays you listen to arguments and most of these arguments resort into very tribal village argument. And I think that sometimes is very demeaning for a national assembly that is supposed to drive the country to the next level. I'm of the opinion that if these bodies need to have representatives from the local area to give some context. But what we need most is the expertise that would actually drive these bodies to a higher level and will enable us to achieve the set objective. Honorable Speaker, while I thank the Member of Parliament for this particular important motion, I think the bill also needs quite a number of amendments, because I don't see the meaning of having bodies to take away the work of the county government. Why should we give county governments less money because we are trying to divide the money to give to authorities?